Should we start? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Prakash Nimapram. On behalf of Chicago Sahitya Mitrulu, welcome to this program. Today, we have a distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Devireddy Subramanyam Reddy, Professor of History from Sri Venkateswara. And also, we have a special guest today, Commissioner, Cook County Commissioner, Kevin Morrison. So he'll be introduced by Mr. Johnny.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Ravi Reddy. He's my good friend, my child, my grandchildren, everybody's doctor. So I was just telling Commissioner Morrison that when he decided to get retired, final retired last year, I was the most unhappy person. I said, we still want you to practicing doctor. Thank you, Dr. Reddy, for inviting me. Thank you, Dr. Devireddy, for taking on such a mammoth and humongous task, which revealed a true history of India. So me personally, I am in debt of to you. Let me allow me to welcome our chief guest. Sometimes, he would not like to acknowledge as a guest. He's such a humble individual, and I have known him for many years. Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison. He is a Schaumburg resident for not Schaumburg, Elk but the border of Schaumburg and Elk many years. He went to Conan. He was resident of this area for last, when you were 10 years, about 25, 27 years. So he's a Cook County Commissioner. He worked very hard. He had no money, but he worked very hard, and he defeated me and my boss as an opponent. But then, the previous commissioner, Tim Schneider, I always will be in a very debt to you because I am one of the first elected Indian officer in state of Illinois. And Commissioner Schneider, he mentored me, he nurtured me, he put me in this position. For Indian, it's even unheard of to run a position. As a matter of fact, I was elected 3 years before Raja Krishnamurthy did, but that credit goes to Commissioner Schneider. After he was defeated, me and Commissioner Morrison, we become very good friends, and ever since, our friendship grew. When I need something, anything with county or sometimes without county, I reach out to him, and he has never left me disappointed. So without further ado, may I introduce you, please help me welcome Commissioner Kevin Morrison, who is also running for 8th Congressional District.
Thank you so much, Nimish, and it is an honor to be with all of you today. I'm Cook County Commissioner Kevin Morrison. I've represented the Northwest suburbs here now for the last 7 years. One of my proudest moments was my first year in office, expanding language access on the ballot from 4 to 12 languages. The reason why you can vote in Gujarati in Cook County is because of my hard work. And growing up in the northwest suburbs, of course, Indian food has always been my favorite. And so the spicier, the better. I'm excited to be here, especially as we are launching this book. So I want to thank Dr. Reddy for the invitation, as well as Dr. Devireddy for your hard work, especially in an area that I find fascinating. I'm a history junkie. My sister was speaking on my behalf at an event recently, and she goes, "We were different. I would run around with pigtails, telling everyone when I grow up I'm going to be a lawyer." And my brother, on the other hand, was always surrounded by history books. And so to be here with you, to share more of the incredible history of India is incredibly important. I look forward to reading the book, and it is an honor to have been invited to be with you in celebrating this momentous moment. And I hope all of you get a chance to read the book as well. Thank you so much for having me.
More polished being portrayed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jani and Commissioner. At this time, because Commissioner and then please start.
Bengali elements.
I am unable to hear much.
Okay, so we'll try to increase the volume here. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so Commissioner Morrison is a progressive Democrat, currently representing District 15 in Cook County. So he's running for District 8. Raja Krishnamurthy is retiring and he's going to contest for the Senate. Now, he will be a Democratic candidate for the District 8. So whoever has votes, please support him. So at this point, I request Professor Devireddy to start his talk on the loss and gain in British India. Yeah, just a few seconds. He's signing his autograph for Commissioner Morrison. So. Like what you comfortable for you? Yeah. Like what is it?
Namaste to all of you for coming to hear me here. First of all, my special thanks to Kevin Morrison, Commissioner, Cook County. I think you will also become Congress member. You will get, I think, elected in the next elections. I'm very happy to see him, and he came all the way, sparing his busy time for releasing my book here. I am again thankful to him. Before starting the main subject, loss and gain in British India, I would like to start with a small introduction. By middle of 18th century, three major changes were taking place in Britain. They had influenced future economies of the whole world. They were scientific revolution, industrial revolution, and another one, because of age, I'm forgetting. No. Without understanding the future impact of these three revolutions, Napoleon of France called Britain a nation governed by shopkeepers. But the same shopkeepers could establish a vast and powerful empire. And secured to Britain the respect of great country, Great Britain, and world power. About 25% of land mass came under the control of Britain. That is 14 square miles area of the world came under the control of Britain. India had 2 million square miles area. Of course, not a small one. India was half of the area of USA, 10% of Asia, and a little less than half of Roman Empire. America has 4.8 million square miles area. Roman Empire had about 5 million square miles area. But Britain dominated the world for about 350 to 400 years. But it began to decline after the First World War. By middle of 20th century, it lost most of her empire. The last bastion to lose being Hong Kong in 1997. The decline of Britain gave scope for rise of America as a great country and world power. Even now, America is a great country and world power. Even today, America is a great country and world power with 3.5 trillion economy. America's economy compared with other top countries stands at 3.5 trillion. China, 19.2 trillion economy. Germany, 4.75 trillion. India, 4.17 projected figure. Here, I must add something. America was under the British. India was also under the British. Britishers, after them, the other Europeans, migrated to America. They settled down or established their first settlement at Jamestown in 1607. In 1707, with the passing of the Act of Union, America became officially a colony of Britain. Before that, it was not officially a colony of Britain, though it was considered a colony of Britain. In 76, America got independence, and independence was recognized in 1783 during the Treaty of Paris. Coming to India, the Britishers came to India, the East India Company and other Europeans. In 1608, the company was established in 1600s, but they came in 1608. In 1757, they laid foundation for the rise of British Empire with the conquest of Bengal. And I know, in 1947, India got independence. Interestingly, India remained great. Britain was great, America was great, and even today America is great. But India remained great for 2000 years. Many people do not know that. For 2000 years, there are three factors for this. One was India was international hub for learning. Or India had self-sufficient, interdependent, cooperative economy. Thirdly, India was a major exporter of manufactured goods. These are the three major factors which made great until 1757. And in fact, up to 1813, when laissez-faire policy or free trade policy began to be followed by the Britishers in India. Coming to the first point, which made India great, India was having a great education system. There were Brahmin settlements called Agraharams, which were in fact learning centers, intellectual centers. There were also schools in deep forests, giving training to royal families and educating other classes of children also. They were called kutirams. There were education institutions run by several institutions, religious and other institutions. And lastly, there were a number of internationally reputed universities. For example, Takshashila, Nalanda. Just 1 minute. Vikramasila, Vallabi, Vadantapuri, Pushpagiri, Somapura, Jagaddala, and many more universities, internationally reputed universities. Subjects like maths, medicine, astronomy, law, logic, philosophy, Buddhist literature, geography, administration were taught in these centers. People from different countries used to come to India for learning. You might be knowing about Huang Sang and many others coming to India. People from Korea, Japan, China, West Asian regions used to come to India for learning, and they stayed here for a longer period and collected some valuable materials also. So that was the great education system that continued up to modern period. So India was international hub of learning. That is one aspect. Secondly, it had self-sufficient economy. Every village was a self-sufficient unit economic and administrative unit. And that was the reason why the Britishers called our villages as republics. Every household was a production center in the ancient and medieval periods in India. Every household was both a dwelling place as well as production center. Variety of goods were produced by people of belonging to different professions or castes, like textiles, toys, and many more things. The production level of India was so great that many people may wonder, 25% of industrial production was taking place in India even by 1750. This is not my figure. This is the figure by great economists and also Oxford. 25% of all industrial production was taking place in India alone. Of course, it fell down to 2% by 1900s due to the policies of the Britishers. We said at the beginning that Great Britain had 25% of land mass under its control, but India was able to produce 25% of industrial goods. Is it not greatness of India? Thirdly, this smallness of production was the strength of India. In fact, even today, India's strength is in smallness, small units of economy, either in agriculture or industrial sector. We have cottage industries. Every household, for example, weavers, they stay in the house and produce thread, textiles, etc. So smallness is the strength of India's economy. That is the reason why, in spite of many recessions taking place in different countries or in the entire world at different times, it may be 1929-31 recession or 2008 recession in America, but no recession had great impact on India. Even the very recent tariff, there is some jerk to economy, but it is still strong because of small agriculture, agricultural economy. We have got small units of land tilled by others. So whether in industrial sector or agriculture sector, the smallness of small units of economy is giving strength to the economy of India. And that is why capitalist decisions have little impact on India throughout its history. For example, its small economy is still contributing a lot to India. For example, there are 1 minute. $67.1 million number of micro, small, and medium enterprises in India today. 67.1 million micro, small, and medium enterprises. Their share in GDP is 30.1 small units. Their share in exports of India at present is 45%. Their share in manufacturing output, 36%. They are providing employment in millions, 244 millions. Employment percentage is 43% of 565 million workforce. Out of 560 million workforce, the micro, small enterprises are providing employment for 43%. That is the strength of India throughout its history. Coming to the third point, it was a great exporter of goods, manufactured goods, not only manufactured, other goods also. People from Rome, Venice, Greece used to come to India for Indian goods since very ancient times. Very ancient times. You know, Megasthenes used to come, was in the court of Chandragupta Maurya in 3rd century BC. So India was exporting 25% of, was producing 25% of industrial goods. And lastly, India had a very vast land mass. It consisted of present countries of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives. All these were once part of India. But the British partitioned, as you know, downsized India and gave freedom in 1947. Here I would like to tell one more thing. Nowadays we have got Ambani's, Adani's, and Tesla, Musk, Buffett, and many more people, very rich people. But you may not be knowing, there were very great rich people during 17th century. There are many tycoons in India. Among them, 3 were most important. There were more than Ambani, Adani's. In Gujarat, Veerji was there. In Bengal, Jagat Seths were there. In southeastern India, there was Mallaya at Pulicat. There were ship owners, exporters, money lenders, bankers, even Nawabs, Nizams, even Mughal emperors like Farooq Shah, Muhammad Shah, used to take lakhs of money on loan from these people. They had branches throughout the country. They had business branches in Red Sea area, Mediterranean area, Persian Gulf area. They were exporting goods to West Asia, Europe, Southeast Asia, and they were also money lenders. So that means capitalism or capitalists or capitalism was taking birth in India by 17th century. But due to the policies of the British and rise of East India Company,
Please to satisfy.
they disappeared. From their professions, and East India Company began to dominate India. Now let us come to when this was the situation, East India Company came, killed Siraj-ud-Dawla of Murshidabad in Bengal, Rasi, removed him from power, declared Mir Jafar as ruler of Bengal province, got trade privileges from him, apart from the right to collect land revenues of 24 parganas in Bengal, and a war indemnity of 17,70,000 rupees. And again, in a short period, they replaced him with Mir Qasim, got privileges again from him. And in 1765, the British got the right, Diwani right, the right to collect land revenues in Bengal Subha, that is present Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. It was a rich area. With the conquest of this area, England could lay foundation for the rise of British Empire. Now let us come to the actual subject. The coming of Europeans to India dates back to 4th century BC. You know, there was a Greek ambassador in and afterwards also many people came. Napoleon could conquer up to the borders of India, and his representative was Seleucus on the borders of India. So coming of Europeans to India was not new.
No, Brahman.
The Greeks, Romans used to come. But the trade, there was only one trade route in the ancient and medieval times. That was via Constantinople.
Please don't hesitate. Please.
But that was closed by Ottoman emperors in 1453. As a result, Europeans could not come to India for goods.
Hello.
So they had to depend on the West Asian traders for any goods. But they were eager to have direct contact with India for getting goods needed by the Europeans. So
Brahman element.
discovered sea route after the invention of Marin's compass. The Spaniards first, then the Portuguese
You don't know it.
discovered sea route to India. The first man to come to India was Vasco da Gama in 1798. He landed at Calicut. So that is how there was revival of trade connection between Europe and India. Coming to the British, the East India Company was established on 31st December 1600s with permission to trade eastern regions. It was a private shareholders corporate company. Most of the shareholders were from business communities. There were also members of parliament. And Queen Elizabeth was also a shareholder of this company. The Britishers came, as I have already told you, in 1698. They got permission from the local, first they came to Surat. They began trading with the permission of local chieftains, then made request to the Mughal emperor, got permission in 1611. That due to intrigues of the Portuguese at Surat, Portuguese were also already trading. They came earlier to India. They lost permission. Again, they tried and got back permission from Mughal emperor in 1613. But this time, not only at Surat, Bombay, Ahmedabad, and one more place, they got permission for trade. After getting permission, they established their trading settlements called factories. Trading settlements were called in those days factories. After establishing trading settlements on the west coast, they also established trading settlements at Calcutta, Machilipatnam in Andhra Pradesh, Durgarajapatnam or Duggarajapatnam near Wakadu in Nellore district, Madras, and at many more places. After establishing settlements, they began buying goods like mostly textiles. India was producing variety of textiles at a very cheaper rate with colors, natural colors. They bought textiles spices, and many more goods and exported to Europe and other countries in Europe, particularly to England, and amassed a lot of money. After amassing a lot of money, they thought of building forts. The first fort that the British built in India was at Durgarajapatnam in Nellore district. The first fort was built there, Britishers. And thereafter, they built forts at Calcutta, Fort William, Madras, Fort St. George, and Fort David, Bombay. So forts were built. After building forts, they thought of raising armies. They raised armies and spent nearly 75% of their revenue on army, mostly consisting of Indians. British army was so strong and big that the British could establish their empire, big empire, mainly because of army of India. So then they started, they began removing their rivals in trade. By that time, there were traders from Portugal. There were Portuguese people, Dutch people, Danish people, and French also. They were all trading in Indian goods. The British wanted to establish monopoly in Indian trade. Therefore, they slowly eliminated all of them in different wars. Then they began eliminating the native rulers. At first, they attacked the Subedar of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dawla, killed him in Battle of Plassey. As I have told you, Mir Jafar was made as Subedar. Then they were not satisfied with him, and they removed him, and Mir Qasim was made as Subedar, and they got new privileges, and finally they got the Diwani right, that is revenue collecting right of the rich territory, Bengal territory, consisting of Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. And that happened in 1757. And this conquest was mainly responsible for the rise of the British. It was the income that the British could get from trade and territories, revenue from the territories of Bengal, Suba, that the British could bring scientific revolution, industrial revolution, and commercial revolution that I have forgotten. Commercial revolution in England. Many inventions were made in England only after conquest of Bengal province, because they got a lot of money from Bengal in the form of revenues, because they were the collectors of revenue. By that time, the Mughal rulers were very, very weak. They had no control over their provinces. The Subedars were just showing nominal recreation. They were just showing nominal authority to Mughal emperor. So it was a conquest of Bengal and trade revenues which transformed England. They transformed India later. But after conquest of Bengal, it was England that was transformed. It was modernized. Many scientific inventions were made, revolutionary inventions. Textiles production with the help of machines on a large scale, on a very large scale, could be made because of these inventions. And there was the industrial revolution. After inventions, industrial revolution. Then commercial revolution, because large scale commerce became possible because of industrial revolution. Among the inventions, I will mention a few. Arkwright invented water wheel. Just 1 minute. So Arkwright, Cartwright, Watts, Samuel Crompton, who invented many more, Hargreaves and many more people invented made several inventions which helped industrialization and production of goods on a very large scale, which ultimately forced England to conquer other countries and export goods and sell them there and get money and become world power. So so that happened after the conquest of Bengal. It was commerce, that means there was large scale production and large scale sale of goods in several countries, which made England powerful. That means the secret of rise of England as a world power was in commerce. That is why one of the British, Joseph Chamberlain, once said, "The empire means commerce. The empire is created by commerce. The empire is founded by commerce. The empire cannot exist a day without commerce. No nation has ever achieved real greatness without the aid of commerce. The greatness of no nation has survived with the decay of its trade. If we want more employment, we must create more demand for our goods. If we lose our empire, half at least of our population would be starved. If we lose our colonies, the first to suffer would be the working men of this country. England is now maintained by aid of her foreign trade. I would never lose the hold which we now have over our great Indian dependency, our great Indian dependency. By far the greatest and most valuable of all the customers. India was major customer we have or ever shall have in this country. So India's, Britain's strength was in commerce. So Britain gave importance to two things. One, commerce, through which it could get a lot of revenue and become a strong power. And second was prestige. It wanted to maintain its prestige as a world power. Therefore, it spent nearly 75% of revenues on army. And even by the time India got independence, the British were spending 53% of their revenue on army because they wanted to protect their prestige apart from getting revenue through trade. So the British could establish their power. What did they do after establishing their power in India? In 1757, when they laid foundation, they also imposed monopoly in Indian trade. When they came in 1606, they were simple traders. And they used to buy goods and export them to other countries and earn a lot of money. But in 1757, they became rulers and they imposed They imposed monopoly in Indian goods. The artisans were forced to work in company settlements, factories. They were not paid properly. Even those artisans or cottage industries producing goods outside were forced to sell their goods at a cheaper rate. So artisan community was destroyed. Even in the case of export of goods, the export of goods or taxation, export taxes, there was manipulation. And from 1813 onwards, up to 1813, the Britishers used to buy our goods and export them to other countries and get profits. But after introducing free trade in 1813, the British industrial goods, which we can call manufactures, not manufacturers, manufactures, began to be flooded, and our native artisans lost their profession, income, and they shifted to agriculture, overburdened agriculture, per capita income fell, and there was starvation deaths. Same was the case with regard to business communities. Village communities, powers of village communities were reduced. And even rights of tribals were controlled. So industry declined in India because of the policies of the Britishers. In the case of land revenue also, they introduced Jamindari, Raitwari, Mahalwari, Malgujari, and Inamdari land revenue systems. Under all these systems, the original land rights, ownership rights, were denied to the people, and they were all made proprietors of land. The British East India Company or the British government became owner of the land. They became owner of the land as well as rulers. They were rulers and owners of land. So all the people, Jamindars or small rights, Inamdars, were enjoying landed rights, ownership rights, but those ownership rights were denied. They were made tenants, and the tax they were paying was called rent because owner was the British, the others were only proprietors. So what the right used to pay was only rent. What the Jamindar used to pay was only tribute or peshkash. So under revenue systems also, the peasants suffered a lot. And then because of these changes, India, there began a situation like depeasantization, deindustrialization, ruralization, ruinization, pauperization, and development of underdevelopment. Particularly from about 1813, when free trade was introduced in India. And because of these things, for example, coming to depeasantization, the rural indebtedness by 1937 was 18,000 million. So because of this ruinization and all these things, India turned into a human cattle farm, an agrarian hinterland, an agricultural farm of England, a marketplace of Britain, a raw material supplying country, a food grain supplying country, and a land of famines and starvation deaths, a land of agristic slaves. People became almost slaves. A land of professions tied to a land of people tied to their professions. There were no alternative professions. All people were forced to get livelihood on land only. Coming to the starvation deaths, I would like to tell you, because of the British rule, in fact, British rule began with famines and starvation deaths, and ended with famines and starvation deaths. In 1771 famine, 10 million people died. In 1743 famine, 3 million people died. Between 1880 1920, 165 million people died. Between 1880 and 1920 alone, 165 million people died in India. That was the situation during the British rule. I'm not able to go into more details because of time factor. And there was drain of 65 trillion between 1765 and 1900s. India's wealth went out. So that was the situation in India. India lost money. Every rupee, every rupee of profit of Englishman was a permanent loss to India. There was no capital formation in India. That was why middle class could not develop and capitalist economy could not come into existence in India. There was total poverty because of this drain. The British gave us a begging bowl. By the time India got independence, there was shortage of 25% of food grains. There was starvation deaths. Luckily, America came to the rescue of India soon after getting independence. It gave us food grains under PL 480 scheme. It gave us aid even when Indira Gandhi came to America in 1966. She got sanction of 3.5 million tons of food grains from America and about 900 million aid. That was the horrible situation. So India was in a, because of this situation, there was poverty. What is poverty? Poverty is money, lack of purchasing power. Give me some more time. Poverty is pain, misery, degradation, shame, embarrassing, loss of liberty, constant fear, lifelong imprisonment, dream killer, capability destroyer, great waster of human potential. Poverty is invitation to abuse, violence, premature death. People in poverty are destined to live in abandoned places, eat whatever is available or donated, get on with malnutrition, and live without necessities. This situation existed in India during the British rule. No doubt, all that the British did was in the interest of Britain, but they also did a lot of good things for India. Of course, they did it unconsciously. And those good things they did laid foundation for modernity in India and future speedier growth of India on modern lines. Among those good things that the British did for India were railways, irrigation. During British rule, 54,000 miles of rail lanes were laid. Our independent India could lay only 14,000 miles of rail roads. They were responsible for major irrigation projects, like many irrigation projects. I have got a big list here. So they were responsible for railways, roadways. 1,000 kilometers roads were laid during British. 1 lakh roads, and some mud roads. 2 lakh kilometer roads were laid. Telephones, telegraphs, motor vehicles, uniform postal system, uniform currency. There were hundreds of currencies in India by the time the British introduced uniform currency system. And uniform administration system, modern legal system, police system, army system. And they also started 10 medical colleges, 9 agriculture colleges, 7 engineering colleges, and many social evils like sati, infanticide, thuggi, pindari, child marriages, etc. were also eliminated. Social evils were eliminated, removed with it. And they were also responsible for the legal border of India. Before the British, we did not have a legal border. It was the British who had fixed the border with agreements like Durand Agreement with Afghanistan, and then McMahon Line. A legal border was created. For that, a committee was also appointed in those days. These are some of the things which contributed to modernity in India. And that was the reason why when the first government, independent government, came into being after 1947, Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, could do many things. For example, I'll just 5 minutes I will take. Between 1765 1900s, as I told you, there was drain of $65 trillion. In 1939, India had a debt of 884 million pounds. In 1947, Britain owed to India 16 billion rupees. In 1947, India got income yielding assets worth 835 crores. 835 crores. It also got a share of cash balance of 325 crores. Very small amount. With that amount, Nehru had to build the nation. Between 51-65, Nehru could raise national income 4 times of the last 50 years. During the last 50 years of British rule, there was stagnation of economy. Only 1% GDP was there. 1% for 50 years. But Nehru could increase it to 4%. Now our GDP is 6.5, around 6.5. That means 4 times he could increase national income. And he brought down fiscal deficit by 3.8%. Industry grew during his time, during first Prime Minister's time, by 7.8%. Capital goods 10 times increase. Intermediate goods 4 times increase. Consumer goods 70% increase. Industrial production 3 times increase. Dependency on other countries decreased by 4%. And agriculture grew at more than 3% per annum. By 65, there was growth of 7.5%. And food imports were also decreased due to increased cultivation. And infrastructure-wise also, there was tremendous increase electricity by 393%. Urban electrification of villages and towns 1,300%. Railways 120%. Surface roads 82%. Hospital beds 165%. Enrollment in schools 180%. And education about 600-700% increase. Technical and scientific manpower increase 12 times within 15 years. And investment also rose 14%. And number of IITs, universities increased to 54 from 18. Colleges increased to 2,500. And education increased from 198 million to 1,500. And many laboratories, national laboratories, atomic energy, nuclear reactors, rocket launching at Tumba. And interestingly, India did not take much aid from other countries. It continued to decrease. Very little foreign aid was taken for the growth of India. But unfortunately, the Britishers did a lot of harm to us, and growth took a longer time for us to become a great nation. While leaving, the British gave us partitioned and downsized India with full poverty starvation, deaths, ruined agriculture, ruined industry, ruined business, ruined trade, and share of interest yielding assets worth 835 crores, cash share of 325 crores, emptied food grains, and a begging bowl to go around the world for food grains from countries like USA under PL 480 scheme. As you know, as I have already said, in March 66, Indira Gandhi visited USA for food grains and got 3.5 million tons of food grains and $900 million of foreign aid. That is, in brief, about good and bad of British rule, and a little about the speedier growth of economy during the first government of independent India. Thank you, one and all, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I must thank Metipalli Jayadeva Garu and Timapuram Prakash Garu for taking interest in organizing this meeting. Last time also, they arranged 2 meetings on the problems of Rayalaseema region, each 1.5 hour duration. Whenever I visit USA, they are taking interest in organizing meetings. I'm really thankful to them, and I thank all of you also for patiently sitting here and hearing my hard subject. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Professor Devireddy. Chicago Scientific Law మన మేరకు ఈ విషయం మీ అందరికీ చాలా ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి బయట in spite of all that, he is